Dustin shocked me because we were shooting a scene.
Yes, look, you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it.
I'm very sorry about this.
My wine glass was sitting there, and he just, with his hand, brushed it so that it whizzed by my nose and broke on the wall in little pieces of glass.
Meryl Streep, 21. Oscar nominations, 3 wins, a flawless career, and the image of a graceful queen who never makes waves. That's the story we all know. But behind the diplomatic smile and the perfect speeches lies a secret blacklist that has never been revealed. A list of 5 Hollywood superstars she has silently exiled from her career forever. Today, we're unearthing the explosive secret Meryl Streep has buried for 40 years. The 5 powerful names she swore she would never share the screen with again. Alec Baldwin. Meryl Streep's philosophy of acting can be summarized with words like discipline, intention, and precision. She approaches each role with the focus of a surgeon, carefully dissecting the character's motivations, rhythms, and objectives long before the cameras start rolling. In her view, every performance must be built upon a foundation of emotional truth that has been painstakingly researched and understood. In stark contrast, Alec Baldwin's philosophy is rooted in a completely different tradition. He is an actor who thrives on the energy of the moment, a performer who values spontaneity and instinct above all else. Baldwin believes that the most brilliant and authentic moments in a performance are often unplanned, emerging from an actor's freedom to improvise a joke or a line that feels right in that specific instant. He has often expressed a distrust for overanalyzing a scene, arguing that rehearsing something to death ultimately strips it of its vitality. Their collaboration took place on the set of the 2009 Nancy Meyers romantic comedy, It's Complicated. The producers initially believed that the contrast between their styles would create a dynamic and exciting chemistry on screen. The hope was that Streep's grounded depth would perfectly complement Baldwin's unpredictable and energetic humor. However, the reality of working together transformed this creative hope into one of the most intense, albeit silent, artistic clashes of Streep's entire career. The signs of tension became apparent within the first week of filming. Crew members began to notice a palpable stiffness in the air whenever Streep and Baldwin were in a scene together. They observed that every time Baldwin would deviate from the script to add his own improvised line, Streep's posture would become rigid. Her shoulders would tense slightly, and her professional smile would not quite reach her eyes. For his part, Baldwin made no secret of his opinion, openly referring to Streep's methodical process as overthinking. He felt she was attempting to impose a rigid structure on moments that should have been allowed to breathe and evolve naturally. Streep, ever the professional, never confronted Baldwin publicly on set. Her method was to wait until a take was finished, and then speak privately with the director to advocate for sticking to the written script. However, her true feelings were revealed during one particularly frustrating rehearsal that was repeatedly interrupted by Baldwin's improvisations. A crew member overheard her state, in a moment of quiet exasperation, "Comedy has to be grounded in truth, otherwise it's just noise." This single sentence perfectly encapsulated her frustration with a process she felt was becoming chaotic and untethered from the story's emotional core. Baldwin's perspective was equally firm. In a later interview, he articulated his belief by saying, "Truth happens in the moment. If you rehearse it to death, it dies." For him, the script was a guideline, not a sacred text, and he saw his improvisations as a way to inject life and realism into the scenes. When looking back on the experience, both actors confirmed the underlying friction. Streep offered a diplomatic but pointed assessment, stating simply, "We had different philosophies." Baldwin, however, was far more blunt in a separate interview, admitting, "Oh, Meryl hated me, absolutely, but I was having too much fun." He also acknowledged, "We didn't always mix." The long-term consequences of this creative divide were definitive. Following their work on It's Complicated, Meryl Streep quietly turned down several projects that would have reunited her with Alec Baldwin. The two have never collaborated again. Their current relationship is one of polite professionalism, where they might exchange nods at industry events and speak of each other with respect in interviews. But a clear distance remains. For Meryl Streep, this experience solidified a core belief. A fundamental incompatibility in artistic process is not just a minor disagreement, but an insurmountable barrier to creating meaningful work together. Kevin Kline. Meryl Streep views acting as a form of intellectual and emotional labor. She firmly believes that a truly great performance is constructed from thousands of tiny, carefully considered details. Her process involves months of preparation, of building a character from the inside out, and of recreating a person's reality based on historical and psychological truth. She is, in essence, an architect of character, building everything methodically and with great care. In contrast, Kevin Kline, a highly respected and talented Juilliard-trained actor, operates from a place of impulse and instinct. He believes that an actor should not overplan, but should instead allow their gut feelings to guide their performance in the moment. While he is known for his versatility and freedom on screen, this very approach clashed directly with Streep's structured methodology. Their professional paths crossed on the set of the iconic 1982 film, Sophie's Choice, the very movie that earned Streep her first Academy Award for Best Actress. From the outside, their on-screen chemistry appeared flawless, a testament to their immense talent. But behind the scenes, a deep conflict was brewing in the rehearsal room, where their two opposing philosophies of acting went head-to-head. Streep's preparation for the role of Sophie Zawistowski has become the stuff of Hollywood legend. She dedicated months to researching the harrowing experiences of Holocaust survivors. She worked tirelessly with a dialect coach to perfect her Polish accent and even learned to speak fluent Polish and German for the film's flashback sequences. She constructed Sophie's complex and tragic psychology with a painful degree of precision, striving to honor the truth of her suffering in every subtle detail. Kevin Kline, however, viewed this exhaustive process with a degree of skepticism. He reportedly felt that her level of preparation was excessive. The defining moment of their conflict occurred during a rehearsal when Streep was struggling to master the exact pronunciation of a particular Polish vowel. Frustrated by what he saw as an academic exercise, Kline famously asked her a question that would deeply wound her. "Are you sure the audience cares more about your vowel sounds than what she's feeling?" For Streep, this question was not merely a critique. It was an insult that struck at the very heart of her creative process. In her mind, mastering the vowel sounds was the way to authentically convey Sophie's feelings. She believed that technical precision was the only path to genuine emotion, that the small details were what made the character real. Kline's comment implied that her hard work was a pointless, intellectual distraction from the real business of acting. The remark suggested that her dedication was for show, rather than in service of the character's soul. Kline's later comments only served to widen the gap between them. In an interview after the film's release, he described Streep's method as a bit academic. While it could be interpreted as a compliment, it carried an undertone that her approach was sterile and lacked the raw, spontaneous energy that he valued. The consequence of this clash was a permanent cooling of their professional relationship. While they remained publicly polite, the personal warmth that once existed had completely vanished. Streep continued to respect Kline's talent, but she admitted privately that she didn't trust him as a creative partner anymore. She felt he neither understood nor respected her process. As a result, Meryl Streep quietly vetoed any future script that proposed a reunion with him. Whenever a project with Kevin Kline's name attached was sent her way, it was respectfully but firmly set aside. Their relationship today is one of formal distance, the kind of respectful acknowledgement you see between esteemed colleagues at award ceremonies. But the collaborative spark was extinguished permanently during the making of Sophie's Choice. Jack Nicholson. During the late 1970s and through the 1980s, Hollywood studios were obsessed with the idea of pairing their two greatest icons, Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson, on screen. They were offered countless projects together, ranging from intense dramas and political thrillers to major literary adaptations. They finally did work together on the 1986 film Heartburn. However, the vast and unbridgeable gap between their core beliefs about acting created an invisible wall, preventing any further collaborations and leaving behind one of the biggest what-if scenarios in modern film history. Streep's philosophy frames acting as a moral duty. She believes that an actor has a profound responsibility to the story and the character, a responsibility that demands immense discipline, exhaustive research, and a deep respect for the truth. For her, acting is a noble craft, not a platform for self-expression or showcasing one's personality. Nicholson's philosophy, on the other hand, was the embodiment of charismatic swagger, raw instinct, and a provocative energy. His legendary performances were not born from books or research, but from an unpredictable and dangerous charm that became his trademark. He famously believed that too much preparation could suffocate the magic of a performance. The fundamental conflict between their two worlds is perfectly captured in a quote often attributed to Nicholson. "Preparation, that's intellectual masturbation." Whether he said these exact words or not, the sentiment behind them represents a school of thought that directly attacks everything Streep stands for. For Streep, hearing such a philosophy was profoundly offensive. She saw it as a knife pointed at the heart of her profession. It wasn't just a difference of opinion, it was a dismissal of the hard, intellectual, and emotional labor she believed was essential to her art. The quote reduced her life's work to a self-indulgent and fruitless exercise. Streep's reaction following their work on Heartburn was characteristically quiet, yet decisive. There were no public arguments or dramatic declarations. Instead, she used her considerable influence as a top-tier star to firmly and consistently veto any project that involved Jack Nicholson. Her decision was not personal in a petty sense. It was a professional judgment based on the conviction that their two methods were so fundamentally opposed that they could not coexist productively on a film set. The casting director Juliet Taylor, one of the most respected figures in the industry, reportedly shed light on this divide when she said, "Jack represents everything Meryl thinks is wrong with stardom." This observation cuts to the core of the issue. For Streep, the star must always be in service of the story. For Nicholson, the star often is the story. The ultimate consequence of this irreconcilable difference was that audiences were deprived of the chance to see two of the most powerful actors of their generation challenge each other in their prime. It created a cinematic void, a series of potential masterpieces that were never made. Their relationship for the subsequent decades remained cool and distant. They would appear at the same events, but their interactions were always minimal and formal. It was a relationship built on a respectful distance, born from a clash of ideologies that defined two different eras of Hollywood performance. Streep's quiet refusal solidified her commitment to working only with those who shared her profound respect for the craft. Dustin Hoffman. Meryl Streep's philosophy of acting is comparable to the work of a surgeon. It requires immense care, precision, and respect, and it must be built on a foundation of mutual trust and consent. She believes that a safe and respectful working environment is absolutely essential for actors to feel secure enough to explore the vulnerable and complex emotions their roles demand. Dustin Hoffman, on the other hand, subscribed to an extreme version of method acting. He believed that to achieve ultimate realism, the lines between actor and character had to be blurred. He was known for using on-set chaos, pushing his co-stars' buttons, and even introducing real emotional or physical aggression into a scene to provoke what he considered a more truthful reaction. Their collaboration on the 1979 film Kramer vs. Kramer became a landmark moment in both of their careers, but for Streep, it was an artistically rewarding yet personally agonizing experience. The film, which chronicles a bitter divorce and a painful custody battle, became a real-life battleground of acting methodologies, with Hoffman determined to make the on-screen tension a reality. The defining moment of their conflict occurred early in the shoot. During an intense argument scene between their characters, Hoffman, without any warning or prior discussion, slapped Meryl Streep hard across the face. This action was not in the script, it was not rehearsed, and most importantly, it was done without her consent. It was only Streep's second day on the set of her first major feature film. Streep's reaction was one of initial shock. She was momentarily frozen, but with incredible professionalism, she continued with the scene until the director called "cut." The moment the cameras stopped rolling, she turned to Hoffman and said in a cold, steady voice, "That was overstepping. That was not acting." For Streep, Hoffman had violated the most fundamental rule of professional conduct on a set: the physical and emotional safety of a fellow performer. Hoffman's aggressive tactics did not stop there. He continued to use shocking methods to elicit emotional responses from her. In another scene, he unexpectedly shattered a wine glass against the wall, sending shards of glass flying into Streep's hair. Again, without any warning, perhaps most cruelly, he would deliberately taunt her between takes about her recently deceased partner, actor John Cazale, who had passed away from cancer just before filming began. Hoffman believed that by dredging up her real-life grief, he was helping her deliver a more authentic performance of a grieving character. The film's director, Robert Benton, found himself in the difficult position of constantly mediating between his two stars. He acknowledged the raw power that Hoffman's methods were producing on screen, but he was also acutely aware of the personal toll it was taking on Streep. The consequences of this tumultuous production were profound. Kramer vs. Kramer was a massive critical and commercial success, earning both Streep and Hoffman their first Academy Awards. However, their personal and professional relationship was irreparably shattered. Years later, Streep described the experience with chilling clarity as professionally productive, but personally intolerable. For his part, Hoffman offered half-hearted justifications for his behavior, admitting, "Maybe I pushed too far," but still defending his actions as necessary for the art. After the film wrapped, Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman never worked together again. This harrowing experience reinforced Streep's resolve to champion a working environment built on respect and trust, proving that for her, no performance is worth the violation of personal boundaries. Gwyneth Paltrow. The professional distance between Meryl Streep and Gwyneth Paltrow was not born from a conflict on a film set, but rather from a clash of generations, worldviews, and fundamentally different definitions of what it means to succeed in Hollywood. It represents a collision between old-school dedication and a new era of celebrity. Streep's philosophy has always been clear: acting is serious work. It is a demanding profession that requires discipline, dedication, and the sweat of one's brow. She came up through the theater, honing her craft through hundreds of performances, and she holds the firm belief that talent must be accompanied by relentless hard work. In her eyes, success is something that must be earned through effort and persistence. In contrast, Streep reportedly viewed Paltrow as a symbol of a new Hollywood, one where success could seem effortless and fame could be an inheritance. As the daughter of esteemed actress Blythe Danner and successful director Bruce Paltrow, Gwyneth was seen as Hollywood royalty. Streep perceived her as someone who was born on the finish line of a race that she herself had to run from the very beginning. This was not about personal dislike, but about a fundamental difference in their journeys and a concern about what this new model of stardom meant for the industry. The peak of this philosophical conflict occurred at the 1999 Academy Awards. A 26-year-old Gwyneth Paltrow won the Best Actress award for her role in Shakespeare in Love, beating a field of veteran nominees, including Meryl Streep for her powerful performance in One True Thing. Paltrow's victory was a major upset and is still debated today as one of the biggest surprises in Oscar history. According to those close to her, Streep's internal reaction was not one of bitterness for losing, but of deep disappointment in the process. She reportedly saw the entire Oscar race that year as a marketing contest dressed up as an award. Didi, the aggressive and expensive promotional campaign run by Miramax for Shakespeare in Love, was widely seen as the deciding factor in Paltrow's win, overshadowing the artistic merits of the performances themselves. Streep's subsequent behavior seemed to reinforce this view. In countless interviews and speeches over the years, she has consistently and enthusiastically praised the work of fellow actresses like Cate Blanchett, Amy Adams, and Jessica Chastain. Yet, the name Gwyneth Paltrow is conspicuously absent from her list of praised contemporaries. In the subtle language of Hollywood, this silence spoke volumes. Their public interactions are always polite, a brief smile, a courteous nod, but they lack any genuine warmth or extended conversation. Interestingly, a personal anecdote reveals a more nuanced relationship. When Streep and Paltrow were neighbors in the same New York apartment building, Streep's oven broke on Thanksgiving. She emailed Paltrow, who graciously allowed her to use her oven, suggesting a level of neighborly civility. Paltrow herself seems aware of this dynamic. Publicly, she has always referred to Streep as the greatest. Yet, in a private conversation that was later made public, she was said to have admitted, "Meryl never liked me." This quiet standoff was never about personal animosity. For Meryl Streep, Paltrow's Oscar win symbolized a troubling shift in Hollywood, an era where powerful marketing and industry politics could triumph over the quiet, dedicated work of a true artist. In conclusion, the stories of these 5 professional relationships reveal a crucial truth about Meryl Streep. She is not a dramatic or difficult person. Rather, she is an artist with an unshakable set of principles. Her decision to avoid working with certain actors was never driven by personal dislike, but by fundamental disagreements over the creative process, professional respect, and the very definition of acting. Throughout her career, she has consistently prioritized the protection of her creative space, the importance of professional boundaries, and an unwavering focus on the quality of the art itself. The great lesson from these experiences is that even a living legend like Meryl Streep must navigate professional friction and conflict. These challenging moments did not weaken her. They strengthened her resolve and taught her the critical importance of choosing her collaborators with care. This discernment has been a key ingredient in her remarkable longevity and her ability to consistently produce work of the highest caliber, solidifying her legacy not just as a great actress, but as a consummate professional of unwavering integrity.